Hiya, my name's Bruce Fummey, a Scottish Ghanaian. And this is what happened when my family and I got DNA results a couple of years back.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa,
I can't see this. I can't see this. Why you guys so...
It turns out genetic ethnicity tests can give you results that you don't expect. If you're interested in the people, places and events in Scottish history, then click the subscribe button at the bottom right of the screen and ring the notification bell to be told when I upload new videos. In the meantime, let me tell you a story. Now, I never much cared about the whole DNA craze that swept the world. It was much easier to get away with things when they only used fingerprinting. Invented by a Scotsman, by the way. I always knew that I was half Scottish and half Ghanaian. My Yorkshire granny might make it a wee bit more complicated, but in principle, being from a continent-changing African nation and a world-changing European nation, I'm pretty comfortable with who I am. Now, every week in the comment section, some rascally racist tries to disturb that comfort by telling me that I'm not Scottish, I'm only West African. And my suntan means that none of the Scottish inheritance matters. Even dinosaurs get to use keyboards these days. Anyway, when one of these DNA testing companies offered to sponsor a video if I'd take a test, I got a wee bit more interested. What I thought would be really interesting would be for a group of my close family, all descended from my dad, Vincent Dracojo Fummey, to all be tested. Now, let me introduce you to the group and you'll see what I mean. There's me, from a Ghanaian father and a Scottish mother. This is my sister, Selassie. She's got the same Ghanaian father, but a West African mother. These are her sons, Prince, with a West African father, and George, who dad's English. So his mix came a generation after mine. And he's English. Of course, there's my wee lassie. She's a strong African woman. Her mum, my missus, is from the northeast of Scotland. So if you're doing a bit of decorating and you're looking for a colour chart, we've got a pretty good range. I thought it'd be really cool for us to find out how different we were. Now, remember, genetically, everyone in this picture comes from the same paternal line, either first or second generation. You can find the results video on the channel, but let's quickly summarise DNA ethnicity tests. What happens is, test companies get DNA samples from a whole bunch of folks around the world whose families have lived in the same place for generations. And that gives them reference groups for lots of geographical areas to indicate what genetic markers folks in a particular area have in common. Then, you spit it in a cup and you send it off. They break up your DNA, analyse little bits of it, and they compare those to the reference populations around the world. How closely the bits in the sample match with the reference populations, that's how they work out the percentage of each ethnicity that makes up you. Now, they don't use all your DNA, and their database of reference samples isn't always reliable. I mean, obviously, there's nowhere in the world where everyone in one area has identical DNA. Scientists are still working on some anomalies in Fife. The point is that it's an educated guess. It's a probabilistic model. Probabilistic. It's a model. Different bookies have got different odds, and sometimes they can be more confident than others. Don't expect any accuracy beyond 5 generations. Now, we filmed the test and the results. Now, if you've been following the channel, then you know how that went. Also, if you've been following the channel, then you'll know that I'm currently touring my live show, Scotland Made the World. And there are still show dates in Scotland and Canada as we speak. If you're watching this later, I'm probably touring some other new show. Either way, click the link top right or in the description below for dates and tickets and details, or go to www.brucefummy.co.uk. But this video isn't about my shows. It's about what DNA results teach us about ourselves. Now, people in the comment section often mention their results, and feel free to do that. Normally, it's North Americans. Now, I can understand why that is. They come from somewhere else, and they want to know where. Their stories normally include descent from some royalty or nobility. To be fair, they'd have a difficult job trying to find information about ordinary folks back in the day, so that's fine. Sometimes their story tells of some ancestor's flight from persecution. It's their story of themselves. My strong African daughter still lives in Perthshire. My son lives in Australia. Both will face challenges, and they would have if they'd chosen differently. They'll each tell their story. And stories of both emigres and remainers is what this channel's about. But we tend to look for a story that fits the narrative we want. It's no better exemplified than when I got my results.
So you know the questions how Scottish am I?
Yeah.
And how Ghanaian am I? Right? I'm 44% English and 30% Nigerian. What the? No, that can't possibly be right. No, it can't be though. It can't be.
It's too funny. It's too funny.
It can't be. No, because the thing is, like, my granny was English. My granny was English, right? But I can't be. That's maybe 25%, right? Okay. And I was prepared. Like, I was prepared to be 25% English.
Yeah.
But nothing prepares you to be 44% English. Well, that's like the Nigerians are like the English of West Africa. I'm English twice. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. This proud Scottish Ghanaian was an English Nigerian. Obviously, the You're Not Scottish Brigade will slag me off about being African. They're so deep into their own racist bullshit that they think being an African's a bad thing. Are they crazy? Look at that family. It's cool to be a Scottish Ghanaian. First black African nation to achieve independence, leader in the African continent, still a beacon of democracy. And of course the other half, a beacon of civilization and European enlightenment and the greatest inventors in the world. It's like winning the genetic lottery, isn't it? But an English Nigerian. Now, I know some English Nigerians, and I've got nothing but love for you, my brethren. They'll have lots of achievements to point out for themselves. It's just not what I aspire to be. It's not the story that I tell myself. So much of our identity is about what's up here, isn't it? The results didn't fit the narrative that I wanted. Now, I've got a fantastic audience on YouTube, and after I put out the disappointing DNA results video, somebody sent me an alternative DNA test to try. They said that Ancestry had a much better reference database, so would be more accurate. Now, I apologise because it was a wee while back and I can't remember who it was that sent it to give them credit, but you are a star. Thank you very much. They also said that over time, the original company's reference database would improve and the results would get more accurate. So, 2 years later, I went back to see how the original test results had changed. Now, remember that in 2022, I was 44% English, 30% Nigerian, 13% Sierra Leone, and 5% Kenyan, with some trace nationalities. Well, when I went back to the same test in 2025, the results had been updated to 57% Nigerian! I'm even more Nigerian than I was before. Oh no! Now, to be clear, I'm not disappointed to be West African. I just didn't want to be Nigerian. I'm Ghanaian, and we're completely different. Just like Scots are completely different from the English. Completely different. Genetically, culturally, ethics, values, and tolerance for alcohol. Totally different. Anyway, the good news is, I can announce, I'm no longer mostly English. That's right, no longer is Bruce Fummey 44% English. I'm Portuguese. Yes, 22% Portuguese. How did that get in there? Well, here's the history bit of the video. The Portuguese were in West Africa before the British. Elmina Castle, the famous slave departure point at Cape Coast, was Portuguese built. Could it be from that? The Old Alliance was the oldest military alliance in the world between Scotland and France, first signed in 1295. The English say that their relationship with Portugal since the Treaty of Windsor in 1386 is the oldest still surviving alliance in Europe. Assuming you ignore Brexit. Either way, we were the first. I'm just pointing out that there is a Portuguese-English connection. Now, we've already established that's way too far back to impact on DNA results. How much it matters is a question that I'll leave up to you. Maybe a Scot is not a Scot, even to 100 generations. The point is, I used to be half English and half Nigerian, with a wee bit of other East and West African. Now, I'm really Nigerian and quite a bit Portuguese. The strange thing is, I don't feel different. I haven't got any better at football. I haven't set up an internet-based financial fraud. Although, if you do have a bank account that can receive funds from a recently deceased uncle, then send me your PIN number. PIN numbers, invented by a Scotsman. Another thing invented by a Scotsman. Everything was invented by Scot. Anyway, what does it all mean? You know, humans and chimpanzees share 98% of their DNA. In fact, humans share about 60% of their DNA with bananas. So cannibals are almost vegetarian. Compared to each other, humans are 99.9% similar. I'm going to repeat that. 99.9%. The differences between humans only account for 0.01% of our DNA. And remember, some of that 0.01% is used in deciding if you're going to be tall or small or able to roll your tongue or have earlobes. Don't you just hate those big earlobe gits coming over here, taking our piercing salons? What about the tongue rollers? They're coming over here and, well, they're getting pierced as well now. The detail doesn't matter. What I'm saying is that of the 0.01% differences, it's only a wee bit of that refers to ethnic differences. That bit, the bit that makes me 59%, 57% Nigerian or 22% Portuguese or what, it's a minuscule part of the 0.01%. So what does nationality or racial group even mean? I've seen diaspora folks comment that they're mean, cheap and tight-fisted because of the tiny percentage of their DNA that signals Scottish ancestry. Nah, mate. I think it's just you're mean, cheap and tight-fisted. In my experience as Scots, very few are. I've seen people say that microscopic bit of DNA is why they like a drink. But 1 in 5 Scots don't even drink alcohol. If you're aggressive, it's not that you have a tiny sliver of DNA that resembles a family of Scots who've been here for generations. because that's the McKechnies and they've always been mad bastards. The minuscule percentage of genetic difference that makes me English one minute and Portuguese the next are swamped by the years of growing up, nearly qualifying for the next round of the World Cup, or being exhorted to persevere like Robert the Bruce, or being told that I've got an accent and my money's no valid south of the border. Our nationhood is defined by the priorities that we collectively place on our values. We are who we are because of the stories we tell ourselves about ourselves. We're brave, we're inventive, we value education, we care about equality, we keep trying to the end even when it looks doomed. We like a laugh and we don't take ourselves too seriously. I hope these are still the stories that we tell ourselves. What percentage difference do these stories make in our character, our achievements? If we want to understand who we are, maybe instead of taking DNA tests, it's our values we should examine. If the stories that we tell each day were spat into a vial and chemically analysed, how confident would we be about the results coming back? So, how did my new test results come back? 47% Benin and Togo. For those of you that aren't familiar with West Africa, that suggests that I'm an Ewe, which I am. You see, the border between Togo and Ghana was set by colonists charting territory rather than peoples defining their own borders. It tells me that I'm 26% Scottish, which I am. A quarter from a Scottish granddad and a quarter from an English granny. The rest is Germanic Europe and North English from that Anglo-Saxon Yorkshire granny. That fits much more into what I expected. Ewe father, half Scottish and half English mother, that's bang on the money. But what do we learn from this? I'm proud of being Scottish. I'm proud of being Ghanaian. But what am I proud of? I suppose there's a contradiction between being the first independent black African state and the colonising people who drew those lines on the map in the first place. Pride in a nation is so often from the actions of our forebears. It's the traditions and stories that we tell ourselves today about them. Is all national pride living in the past? What are you and I doing for Scotland now? What if there was a test that could measure what I did today to make future Scots proud? Would I pass it? Would it be a genetic test? As my test results changed, my DNA didn't actually change. And even if my genetic inheritance had changed in the ways described, would it change who I am? But if I change my attitudes and mindset, genetic inheritance can change your likelihood of some health conditions. But your mindset determines how those conditions affect you. And our group mindset, national identity is the accumulated average of our shared values, attitudes, and aspirations as a people. That mindset starts with the stories that we tell ourselves, if we believe them. I'm going to keep telling stories of Scotland and our heroes. And maybe try to make Scotland better for our children. I've made other videos about some of our heroes, and there's one coming up on screen now. If you enjoyed this video, then like it, share it, and watch the next one. Support the channel by clicking top right to become a Patreon member or buy me a coffee in the description below. In the meantime, Hammy and Doch is going to be a lamb alive. Slash.